At least, that was what the official archives of the Thalrion Empire would one day record, assuming there was anyone left to maintain them. For 2 centuries, the Thalrion had ruled 1,000 systems. Their silver-white fleets moved like migrating constellations across the void, their ships vast crescents of living metal and luminous crystal. They were ancient, refined, patient. They did not rush into war. They orchestrated it. When humanity was discovered on the outer spiral arm, their world blue and raw and violent, the Thalrion court regarded them with polite disdain. Another Death World species, declared High Strategist Overin, tendrils of bioluminescent thought flickering along his elongated skull. They will resist. They will rage. And then they will submit. Emperor Valian agreed. Only one voice hesitated. Princess Lyrielle Valian stood at the edge of the observation chamber as Earth rotated below them in holographic projection. She was young by Thalrion standards, barely 80 cycles, her skin a pale opalescent hue, her eyes bright with curiosity instead of conquest. "They are different," she murmured. Her father did not look at her. "They are primitive. They fight each other constantly," Lyrielle continued. "And yet they build art, music. They explore space before mastering peace." "Which makes them dangerous," Valian replied. The Senate approved limited subjugation, a demonstration of superiority, a strike to disable their orbital defenses and force negotiations under Thalrion authority. No one expected what happened next. The first engagement over Mars was meant to be decisive. Thalrion warships emerged from slip space like silent moons, their hulls shimmering as energy lattices unfolded. Human satellites detected them seconds before their defense platforms were vaporized. The Thalrion broadcast a single message across all frequencies: surrender. Humanity responded with missiles. Primitive fission-based warheads streaked toward the Thalrion fleet, accompanied by railgun slugs and experimental plasma bursts. Most were intercepted. Some were not. It surprised the Thalrion when a human vessel, small, angular, patched with visible weld seams, rammed one of their frigates. The frigate did not survive. The Senate revised their assessment. Savage. Overin spat. They weaponized suicide. They weaponized desperation, Lyrielle corrected quietly. Her father's gaze lingered on her a moment too long. 3 weeks later, Princess Lyrielle disobeyed a direct order. She boarded the Eternal Radiance, a forward assault carrier assigned to the Terran front. Officially, she was observing strategy. Unofficially, she wanted to see the humans herself. War from a throne was sterile. War from orbit was not. Earth burned in places. Cities along coastlines lay dark, their grid shattered by orbital strikes meant to minimize resistance. Human fleets fought in fragmented clusters, guerrilla tactics replacing formation battles. And then came the Battle of Callisto. It was there she saw him. The Thalrion task force had cornered a human battle group near Jupiter's moon. The humans were outnumbered 5-1. Their capital ship, designation TSV Resolute, bore scars across its hull. One engine plume flickered unevenly. High Strategist Overin himself commanded the assault. "Cripple their flagship," he ordered. "Leave enough intact for analysis." Energy lances tore across space. The Resolute staggered under the barrage. Its shields, crude electromagnetic bubbles, collapsed in seconds. Lyrielle watched from the observation deck as hull sections exploded outward. "They're finished," said a Thalrion officer beside her. The Resolute did not retreat. Instead, it accelerated. "Collision course?" the officer frowned. "No," Overin muttered. "They're positioning for broadside." The human ship rolled, exposing its flank. Panels split open along its side. Dozens of them. Railgun batteries. Not aimed at the Thalrion ships. Aimed at Callisto. Lyrielle's breath caught. Why are they firing at the moon? The answer came seconds later. Ice erupted from Callisto's surface as their railgun slugs struck pre-calculated coordinates. Beneath the ice, something ignited, buried fusion charges. The moon's crust fractured. Tidal forces from Jupiter did the rest. Chunks of ice and rock the size of cities tore free, flung outward in a widening storm of debris. The human ship had turned the moon into a weapon. Evasive maneuvers. Over-embarked. Too late. Thalrion ships were designed for elegance, not chaos. Their predictive algorithms could chart stellar trajectories, calculate quantum probabilities, but they had not accounted for an entire moon detonating into shrapnel. Fragments slammed into hulls. Energy shields flared and failed. One cruiser split in half under the impact of a tumbling ice mountain. The Resolute, battered and bleeding atmosphere, plunged directly into the debris field. "They're mad," whispered the officer. Lyrielle watched in stunned silence as the human ship navigated the chaos like a creature born of it. A Thalrion destroyer attempted pursuit. From the Resolute's ventral bay, a single small craft detached. It was barely larger than a shuttle. "That vessel is insignificant," Overin said. It wasn't. The shuttle darted through the debris, using fragments as cover. It accelerated beyond safe tolerances. Thalrion targeting systems struggled to lock onto something that moved with such reckless unpredictability. The shuttle reached the destroyer's flank. And then it did something no Thalrion would have conceived. It landed. Magnetic clamps locked onto the destroyer's hull. "What are they doing?" Lyrielle asked. The answer came through internal sensors. Hull breach. Human life signs. 1, then 3, then 12. Entering the destroyer. Boarding. Hand-to-hand combat in vacuum corridors. The Thalrion had not fought like that in centuries. Lyrielle accessed the internal feeds. She saw him then. The human. He moved through corridors filled with drifting bodies and flickering gravity. His armor was scorched and patched, his visor cracked. He carried a kinetic rifle in one hand and a blade in the other. A Thalrion warrior lunged at him, taller, stronger, enhanced with biopsionic implants. The human shot once, point blank, then drove forward as if pain did not exist. When his rifle jammed, he discarded it without hesitation. He closed the distance. They collided. The Thalrion's elongated limbs should have given him the advantage. They did not. The human fought like gravity itself was on his side, compact, brutal, relentless. He took a strike to the shoulder that would have incapacitated most species. He did not slow. He headbutted the Thalrion, grabbed its weapon arm, and used the destroyer's rotating artificial gravity to flip both of them against the bulkhead. The blade flashed. Blue blood blossomed in 0G. The human stood over the fallen warrior, breathing hard. Lyrielle felt something she had never felt in a battle simulation. Fear. Not of death. Of inevitability. The human keyed something on his wrist. Moments later, the destroyer's core destabilized. "He's still inside," she whispered. "Yes," Overin replied coldly. The destroyer exploded. Shockwaves rippled through the debris field. More Thalrion ships were struck. The Resolute emerged on the far side, engines flaring. Retreating. Victorious. Lyrielle stared at the fading explosion. "They sacrificed themselves," she said. Overin did not answer. That night cycle, Princess Lyrielle could not enter the meditation trance. She replayed the footage of the human boarding action. Again, again, again. There had been no hesitation in him. No plea for mercy. No grand speech. Just determination. She accessed casualty reports. The boarding shuttle had contained 14 humans. None survived. She searched deeper, breaching restricted files. The human she had seen was identified as Commander Elias Kane. Age, 34. Family, 1 daughter. She froze. A daughter. Thalrion warriors were engineered, raised in state academies. Family bonds were ceremonial, not visceral. This human had left a child behind. For what? A delaying action. Lyrielle shut off the display. Her father summoned her at dawn. The Imperial War Chamber glowed with holographic projections of Terran space. Red indicators marked contested systems. Blue showed Thalrion control. There were fewer blue markers than there had been a month ago. You have been studying the enemy, Emperor Valian observed. Yes. And they will not surrender. All species surrender. She shook her head. Not like this. Overin interjected. Their fleet losses are unsustainable. Their industry is crippled. It is mathematics. Lyrielle stepped forward, activating footage from Callisto. This is not mathematics, she said. The projection showed Kane fighting through the destroyer. Silence filled the chamber. He is one soldier. Overin dismissed. No, Lyrielle said softly. He is human. Valian regarded her carefully. You are disturbed. I am enlightened. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. She met her father's gaze. If we continue this war, they will escalate. They will weaponize their own planets. They will burn their skies before kneeling. They lack the capacity. They lack the fear. That silenced even Overin. Lyrielle took a breath. Father, we have made a terrible mistake. The Emperor did not end the war. Instead, he authorized Phase 2. Total suppression. Orbital bombardments intensified. Human colonies on Mars and Europa were shattered. Thalrion ground forces deployed to Earth's surface. Lyrielle was confined to the capital world. She watched as human resistance transformed. Cities became fortresses. Forests became ambush zones. Humans sabotaged Thalrion supply lines with crude but effective explosives. They hacked communication arrays with unpredictable code. And then they did something that chilled even the Senate. They united. Nations that had warred for centuries pooled resources. Rival factions ceased hostilities overnight. Scientists shared secrets once guarded by pride and paranoia. Humanity focused. A single species fighting as one. The Thalrion had never encountered that before. By the 6th month, Thalrion casualties exceeded projections by 300%. Then came the transmission. It was not from Earth. It was from beyond the solar system. A human deep space vessel, presumed destroyed, had reached the border of a rival empire. And it had broadcast everything. Footage of Thalrion bombardments. Civilian casualties. A plea for aid. The galaxy watched. The Thalrion Empire had ruled by reputation as much as strength. They were seen as measured just. Now they were conquerors of a defiant young species. Political pressure mounted. Allies grew cautious. Rivals grew bold. And still, the humans fought. The turning point came at the Siege of Luna. Thalrion forces had established a massive staging ground on Earth's moon. From there, they could strike any point on the planet within minutes. Human forces launched a desperate assault to reclaim it. Lyrielle defied orders again. She traveled to the front. This time, she stood on the surface of Luna itself as the battle raged. Human drop pods streaked through space, dozens incinerated before landing. Those that survived smashed into the regolith, hatches blowing outward as soldiers poured into gunfire. Among them, Lyrielle saw a familiar insignia, the emblem of the Resolute. Her breath caught. Commander Elias Kane was dead, but his crew lived. They fought with a fury that defied logic. Thalrion warforms, towering constructs of living alloy, advanced across the lunar plains. Humans charged them, not retreating, charging. Explosions blossomed in vacuum silence. Lyrielle watched through magnified lenses as a human soldier climbed onto a warform's back, planting explosives even as its limbs tore at him. She felt something fracture inside her. These were not beasts. They were guardians, protecting a world that had birthed them in violence and wonder. A Thalrion commander approached her. "We will crush this assault within the hour." She turned to him, eyes blazing. "And how many more like them will come?" He hesitated, because he did not know. None of them did. That night, under the harsh light of an alien sun reflecting off lunar dust, Princess Lyrielle stood before her father via HoloLink. Behind her, the battle still raged. "I have seen enough," she said. "You are compromised," Valian replied. "No. I am clear." She gestured toward the battlefield. "They will not stop. Not for annihilation. Not for extinction. They fight for each other. For their children. For a future they refuse to surrender." "They are losing." "Are they?" she asked. She transmitted new data. Human manufacturing had adapted. They repurposed civilian vessels into warships within weeks. They mined asteroids for rapid construction. They reverse-engineered captured Thalrion technology at alarming speed. "If this continues," she said, "they will surpass us in asymmetrical warfare within a year." Overn appeared beside the Emperor's projection. "You overestimate them." "No," she replied quietly. "You underestimate them." She took a step closer to the holoprojector. "Father, I saw one human fight. Once. And I knew then, we cannot win this without destroying ourselves." Valian's gaze hardened. "You would have us surrender? I would have us survive." Silence stretched between them. Then alarms sounded across the lunar base. Human forces had breached the primary shield generator. Lyrielle looked toward the explosion blooming in the distance. "They are here," she whispered. And in that moment, Emperor Valian saw what she had seen months ago. Not savagery. Not madness. Resolve. The order came 3 hours later. Ceasefire. Across Earth, Luna, and orbit, Thalrion weapons powered down. Human forces, stunned, held position. A single Thalrion envoy ship descended toward Geneva. Princess Lyrielle stood aboard it. When she stepped onto Earth's soil, she felt gravity heavier than Thalrion standard. It suited the moment. Human leaders awaited her in a shattered hull hastily reinforced. They looked exhausted, unbroken. She bowed her head, a gesture of respect rarely offered to non-imperial beings. "We seek armistice," she said. A murmur rippled through the room. One human stepped forward. A young girl, escorted by guards. Lyrielle recognized her from the files. Elias Kane's daughter. The girl's eyes were fierce. "Why?" she demanded. Lyrielle met her gaze. "Because I saw your father fight." Silence. "He gave everything," Lyrielle continued. "Not for conquest. Not for glory. But for you." The girl's chin trembled, but she did not look away. "My father believed humanity deserved a future," Lyrielle said softly. "I agree." Negotiations lasted weeks. Terms were harsh for the Thalrion. Reparations, technology exchange, recognition of Terran sovereignty. But the war ended. Years later, Princess, now Empress, Lyrielle stood beside Emperor Valian's memorial. He had abdicated, citing strategic recalibration. History would remember him as the ruler who nearly lost everything. She would be remembered as the one who chose differently. Earth thrived. Human and Thalrion ships patrolled together along former war zones. Trade flourished. Cultural exchange reshaped both civilizations. Humans brought unpredictability, innovation, art. Thalrion brought stability, longevity, perspective. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, Lyrielle would watch recordings of Callisto, the moment when a single human chose to charge into impossible odds. She understood now. Power was not the ability to dominate. It was the willingness to stand when standing meant sacrifice. She had seen a human fight once, and it had changed an empire. Because in that violent, desperate brilliance, she had glimpsed something terrifying. A species that would rather burn the stars than kneel. And she had begged her father to end the war.